cultural differences. These are things that make each and every country unique. And today I'm going to talk to you about the differences between back home in Canada and here in Denmark and across Europe in general. So when you think of a country, you think of its flag. Well, in Denmark, you actually can't fly your flag all year round. There are specific days called flag days, and these are special occasions where you can fly the normal Danish flag. Now back in Canada, you can fly your provincial flag, your country flag, other countries' flags, whenever you wanted to. But here in Denmark, there are special days that you can fly it. Now these days would be like Independence Day or someone's birthday, and also some other events as well. Now for me, it was very strange to see this. When I'd walk by, they'd have these thin banner flags, which are actually allowed to be flown year-round, but the actual rectangular flags are not to be flown 365 of the year, which is quite strange for me. Now, when we talk about Europe, and especially Denmark, we have to talk bicycles. Now, riding bikes here in Denmark is very key for transportation, and it's actually one of the top countries in the world that use bicycles for transportation. I've noticed here in Denmark, there are a lot more bike paths here compared to Canada. Now, when you're in the city, let's say Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, there's going to be bike routes and bike paths, but here in Denmark especially, they're pretty well everywhere. And just talking about bikes in general, I feel like most people would rather take a bike to go somewhere compared to taking a car. And it may be, for one, economical because biking is free. And second of all, it's better for the environment. So I feel like that combined with exercise is really important for people. And also too, it's just a nice way of going around and seeing the city. And staying on the topic of vehicles, the cars that are here in Denmark are so small. Honestly, it feels like when I walk down the street, I'm just walking on one of those placemats where you used to play with your dinky cars, because all the cars here are so small compared to North America. Now that might be obvious too, especially when you come from a region where a lot of pickup trucks and vans are very common, but here in Denmark, I don't think I've seen a truck yet, to be honest. Everything is mostly small vehicles, maybe the occasional van. For one thing, gasoline is very expensive here, so to have a big gas guzzling vehicle just doesn't make sense. And second of all, transportation is so good. We've talked about bikes, but also the bus system here is so good. The train system as well, although sometimes it can be delayed. Again, you don't need these big vehicles to get around. You'll find a way. Now, while you're driving your said vehicle, in Canada, there are four-way stops, which are stop signs in each direction. It honestly causes more confusion than anything. But here in Europe, and especially Denmark, there's no four-way stops. In fact, I haven't really even seen a stop sign, to be honest. A lot of them are just yields, and it makes sense, honestly. I mean, if you're coming up to the main road and you look and there's no vehicle coming, then just keep going. And the same thing with roundabouts as well. Those are kind of new for where I'm from anyways. But again, it's all about efficiency, and I think Denmark has the right idea. Now, getting away from vehicles, let's talk about everyday life. And speaking of everyday, the grocery habits of people. Now, people back home normally would buy for a week or 2 weeks when it comes to buying groceries. I know my family usually buys for a week, but here in Denmark, it's pretty well daily. I feel like it helps when it comes to saving money because you just go to the store that day and buy things that you need. But I feel like if you buy for a full week, you're going to buy things that you're not going to use, which is wasteful. So again, I honestly have adjusted to buying every couple of days because it just makes sense and it's cost efficient as well. Now, just an added note, when it comes to grocery shopping here, I personally find that the food is cheaper than Canada, but people can kind of argue. So if you think that North America is cheaper, let me know down below in the comments to say, do you think it's cheaper or more expensive where you're from? Now, talking about buying things in grocery stores, One of the things that you can't buy in a grocery store is alcohol back in Canada, but you can here in Denmark. So in Canada, you have to go to these liquor corporations, which are these buildings that the government controls the way of selling alcohol, where here in Denmark, you can buy pretty well any alcohol in a grocery store. Now for me, it's so strange to walk into a grocery store and see alcohol beside your vegetables or something like that. Okay, they're probably not beside the vegetables, but you get my point. Most liquor stores are connected to grocery stores back in Canada, so ultimately it doesn't make too much of a difference. But again, it's just a funny little quirk that Denmark has compared to Canada. Now, let's say you want to mail something. Back home in Canada, you just go to the post office, which is a designated building that controls all the different types of sending mail, receiving mail. That's just not a thing here. When it comes to sending mail or receiving mail, if it's something small like a letter, then obviously it's delivered to where you live. But if it's anything bigger, you actually have to go to a pickup depot, which could be a random grocery store or a store in general. One of my friends back in Canada sent me something, but it got sent to a store, but there's 3 stores with the same name in my city. So I had to go on a wild goose chase trying to figure out where it is. And finally, my pet peeve, paying to use public washrooms. This is the bane of my existence, and I understand, but I also don't get it as well. So back home in North America, if you go to a shopping center or you go to a train station or something like that, most of the time, if not all of the time, you just walk into the washroom, no problem. But here in Denmark, most places you have to pay, and that really bothers me. Now mind you, it's like 5 Danish crown, which is like 1 Canadian dollar, but again, it helps maintain the washrooms, so I get it, but it's really annoying. But anyways, those are some interesting cultural differences that I've found between Canada and Denmark. I write these things down whenever I see them. So if I come up with some more, I'll definitely make another video. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Like if you liked it. Comment if you have something to say. Maybe there's other differences that I might have missed. But this is Thomas signing off. Please stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.